Alright then, let's get started. So, when the Czech Center asked me to do this Czech beer tasting, I thought, what are the most important aspects of Czech beer? And of course, history is as fascinating as it is important to understand Czech beer. So, the Czech Republic as we know it today has been brewing beer for thousands of years. But it wasn't until fairly recently, during the mid-1800s, that this light, golden, bright lager that we know and love today became popular. So when we think about Czech Pilsner today, or Czech beer, most of us will see in front of us a big, beautiful glass of just this deep golden liquid. And of course, it is a very beautiful, beautiful beer. But to put this a little bit in context, this light, bright, beautiful beer hasn't always been the case. I mean, it wasn't until the early 1900s that we got electricity as the standard for most people. And also, earlier we've been drinking beer from wooden mugs or from ceramics. So drinking a beer out of a glass and actually being able to see the beer because we have electric lighting is actually fairly modern. Whew, all this talking is making me really thirsty. That's better. Isn't that just a gorgeous beer? Well, most Czech beers are. That's good. Alright, where was I? Speaking of geography, the Pilsner is of course from the town Pilsen, but the Pilsner is not a PGI, a protected geographical indication. So if you brew Pilsner in, Germany or Sweden or United States, you can call your beer a Pilsner. Czech Republic has many different types of PGIs, but Pilsner is not one of them. For example, České pivo, Czech beer, is actually a PGI, and there's a lot of different ones for different cities. As I spoke of, Moravia, in the southeastern part of Czech Republic, is a very important barley grown region. And the reason that Moravia is so good for growing barley is that the soil is really rich, it holds water well, and also the plains are very flat, so it's perfect for growing barley. And most Czech beers use grain from this region. Alright, so let's start off with our first beer. You can't really have a Czech beer tasting without mentioning Pilsner Urquell. This is the first original Pilsner from 1842 with the help of a German brewer and the use of all Czech ingredients. So this Moravian barley we spoke of and the Saaz hops growing in the Saaz region to the northwest of the Czech Republic. This beer is, as you can see, a deep gold color, and when you smell it, it's a perfect combination of the ingredients and the process. You can smell just the rich grains and the grassiness and this slight spiciness of the hops and just a little bit of fermentation characteristics, which is very important for a Pilsner. You want a Pilsner to be slightly buttery, at least these traditional Czech ones. A lot of them just has a slightly buttery tone, but it still feels very fresh, with all these hop aromas and the rich grain. And in the taste, you'll find an assertive bitterness, but it's perfectly balanced with the sweetness of the malt and the fermentation characteristics. And it's just honestly one of the most perfect beers ever made. Honestly, the Pilsner. That is absolutely delicious. Now, when you walk into a traditional Czech beer hall, you'll be amazed at the science behind pouring a proper Pilsner. And serving it correctly is a very important matter to the Czechs. So what you'll see walking in is hundreds of glasses being filled, letting the foam settle for a little bit, and then topping up just as they serve. And you'll see that it always has a rich, proper foam on these beers, which is of course also a very important characteristics of Pilsner. Right, so moving on to our next beer. Second on the list is the absolute famous Budvar. So when I mentioned that Pilsner isn't PGI protected, this is one of the beers that is. So you'll see that on the label here it says, I'm really sorry by the way for my pronunciation, but České Budějovice, which means that it's a beer from Budějovice, the city, which is a PGI protected. So just smelling this and tasting this, it differs slightly from the Pilsner Urquell. The aroma is slightly more fruity, and it's not as buttery as the Pilsner Urquell. So it has more of a fruity fermentation character than the others. Let's give it a taste. This is really thirst quenching. It's not as bitter as the Pilsner Urquell. It's slightly lighter in body and a bit more fruity character, but it's, as you can see, it's got the same beautiful deep gold color. I'm always saying that, you know, the Czech beer really is liquid gold, because I mean, look at it. Czech beer is not always this gold color. There's also many different varieties of darker beers. This one is the Bernard Amber. And so Bernard is a family-owned brewery. It's geographically, it's just in between Prague and Brno, so like in the middle of the eastern of Bohemia, so to speak. And this is actually, the brewery is actually really cool because they restored the old brewery from the 16th century, so they still have a lot of old artifacts from that time. But just seeing the color, the deep, I'd say it's sort of like a deep red or like a deep amber color, sort of brownish red. It's really beautiful. This Moravian barley that I've been raving so much about, after you turn it into malt, you can caramelize and or roast it, which is how you get these darker beers. The difference in taste is it's more of a, it reminds me more of like a deeply roasted bread, like a toast. Let's give it a taste. I want to thank you all for joining me and wanting to learn more about Czech beer. And also I want to thank the Czech Center, Stockholm, for giving me the opportunity to do this and setting it up and just spreading the gospel about Czech beer. Na zdraví!